Good morning, noon, evening or night, depending when you're watching this video. My name is Legend and welcome back to World of Tanks and the greatest of games, where we feature some great moments of some of the greatest games I've seen. And this time we are watching Zarva underscore. Just Zarva will do, I guess. Playing in his BZT-70 on Red Shire. And well, this tank is quite infamous, introduced with the latest Christmas loot boxes, being the heavy tank, the tier 10 heavy tank with the highest alpha damage and consequently highest critical hit damage, as well, Zarva is kindly to show off during this replay. But we are starting off with his passage towards the fallen down blimp, as he attempts a very nicely led shot on the Panzerwagen and also trying his platoon mate Verdion in the T100 LT to spot him out once again. Very good lead on tactics right there with that initial shot, but unfortunately no more long range shots can be made. So he quickly turns his tank around and tries to engage with the enemies closer by. However, he does overpeak here so that he can trade one shot quite easily, but gets damaged twice. So the trade unfortunately didn't work this time. So he changes his tactics once again and tries to charge in, but gets unlucky as the can opener is now able to hit him once more. But it was the right choice after all, because right now, close range, he's being more effective as he can side scrape more easily and hit weak spots at this distance. And during this time, he doesn't really get contested or countered and can easily poke out multiple times without getting rushed back due to his supporting teammates. Because getting rushed in the BZT is pretty much one of his main weaknesses, as with a very high alpha damage there comes a quite significant amount of reload. Most of the times those types of tanks do suffer from a lack of DPM, which can definitely have some negative effects when you are caught out. But luckily Zarva is protected by potential support from his team from behind. And eventually his team gets rid of all tanks inside of the blimp, with Zarva already getting near 5,000 damage. But after that, for a while, he holds his ground and doesn't push further because his team is at a disadvantage in hit points. And if he charges, he might get a few more shots off, but both of the grills, for example, then have the possibility to engage him from a distance. So he plays his cards correct and doesn't forfeit his biggest strength, namely being effective at close range. So he's essentially waiting for the enemy team to close the distance to get closer towards his team, since there are around 4,000 hit points behind. But it is around this time that he spots some approaching TTs from the south and redirects his fire to them, and literally after which he was able to quickly retreat back behind cover. A very nice fire right there in order to finish off the Death Star in one shot. However, with the cap pressure on, he decides to charge in and angle for the force in order to flank around. Spots the grill, doesn't one-shot him, but also sets him on fire, though being able still to finish him off in one shot as well. Then we move onwards towards the cap and he takes the most riskiest shot to reset the cap without being fully aimed, confirming pretty much the win from the jaws of defeat. Since his team is able to finish off the Porsche and after the grill 15 piece once again, he again hits him with a not fully aimed shot, but well, right now it's pretty much deserved. Speaking of deservance, only the artillery is left right now, which his teammates kindly allowed him to kill to get over 10,000 damage. Zava specifically asked them nicely in the chat, and it's quite heartwarming and a great end to this over 10k game. So this game had a tricky start, losing him already over half of his health. Zarva quickly executed the correct strategy for the BZT, namely close quarters combat with the ability to poke and disengage without getting swarmed. Doing that only shaved off one more shot of health from his hit points for the rest of the battle, which left him on 666 health. Maybe he did make some kind of deal with the devil to allow him to get such a game. But this was also due to his insight not to push further out in the open, instead waiting for the enemies to come to him, since they still had the HP advantage at that point. And when he noticed that such an assault of the enemies was coming from the other side, he immediately redirected his attention there, which allows him to rush back towards the gap and save the game. So with that nice prelude of a replay, I've got one more to show you. So we know that Zarva is quite proficient in the BZT, so why not indulge into another great replay of his? However, this time he isn't playing alone in the BZT, because his platoon mate, the one, the only, the guy who's pretty much trying to take over my channel as it seems, it's Toby Thomas, who is also playing his BZT. I also need to give a quick shout out to Verdion once again, this time playing in his can opener. Unfortunately for this replay, we don't get a point of view from his perspective. Nevertheless, that doesn't make his contribution and the platoon teamwork less exciting, as we are starting again quite rough during their route towards the castle as they get intercepted by enemy medium tanks. Zarva received damage once, but then immediately starts to angle more while still keep driving towards solid cover. Toby and Verdion are doing the same and allows them to receive no further damage and even block over 1000 when they finally get towards the castle itself. When they do finally arrive, they first have no problem at all to deal with the AMX 50B, who for some reason thinks he's a good hull down heavy. Well, hate to bring it to you, but well, you definitely ain't. After that, the 3 platoon members positioned themselves across 3 different avenues to engage the enemy, with Toby getting the first juicy shot off between the walls, giving him a fire as well. That's the third so far this video, which Zarva wants to follow up, but quickly readjusts his shot to the Yo tank, giving him the easier broadside hit. Now, the enemy BZT is proven to be quite hard to deal with here, but with covering fire each platoon member has on each other, it is Zarva who can slowly creep forward and eventually find a shot on the cupola of the enemy BZT, which gets distracted, allowing Toby, who immediately reacts to finish him off. And with that BZT dealt with, Zarva can advance further to take over the entire castle high ground, but gets a bit of a tunnel vision on the mouse as it seems, forgetting about the one-shot Centurion next to him. But maybe he just wanted to farm more damage instead, and with his platoon mate Verdion in a can opener right behind him, he once again has safety against a potential retaliation of the enemy Centurion. And after pretty much bullying the Centurion off the high grounds, Zarva has some excellent side shots on the enemies below who want to flank around, with Toby joining the fray, also having another angle from above. So for a short while they are accumulating more damage from their positions of advantage, Toby eventually feels his spider senses tingle as the medium tries another flanking maneuver. Luckily, Zarva comes to the rescue, and with the two of them, they successfully charge in and finish off both the enemy flankers with some very neat target priority, shooting down the targets that they have vision on the fastest. Probably also having this communicated with each other quite well. But no time to dwell on that, as the other side of the castle wall are now being invaded by big Deutschen danger seekers. I don't know why I wrote that down in my notes. I'm sorry. Both Zarva and Toby each engage one of the mice, with Toby being able to finish his mouse off before he could fully move up towards the castle walls. Zarva has a bit more trouble with his more healthier mouse, who he also bounces one shot off, but gets help from Toby soon enough, and with the two of them, they can also finish off that mouse without losing too much HP again. After that encounter, only a few enemies remain, but unfortunately their platoon mate Verdion in the can opener perishes to the enemy counterpart. And for the next few minutes, Toby and Zarva try to scout out the map in order to find the perpetrator. Eventually, they find him all the way back in the river, and as Toby holds the position to quickly get a spot on him, Zarva tries to find an angle in which he can instantly hit the can opener. But in the process of doing that, he spots the grill, and both Zarva and Toby instantly switches to HE, and by doing that, they are able to double tap the grill 15 out of existence, with the only retaliation possible from the artillery, who surprisingly shaves off 730 hit points from Zarva. Ooh, yikes. But with the arty on reload and Zarva in position, Toby feels confident enough to rush into the spot of the can opener, which Zarva is able to finish off. All the while, the friendly STRV avenges Zarva's artillery HE home delivery, concluding the battle. So excellent gameplay from both individual and team-bound perspectives, maintaining several angles at the same time to confuse, overwhelm, and surprise the enemy, all the while they cannot retaliate, but since, well, if they push in, they get punished even harder. Such is the power of a 3-man platoon playing in top tier heavy tanks, getting into those strong positions, trying to brawl it out on the front line, all the while the enemies are quite hesitant to move forwards, because if they do that, they might be sent to the garage rather quickly. And with their teamwork, their platoon accumulated over 18,000 damage, over 8,000 damage blocked, with 10 kills combined over Toby and Zarva. Those numbers accumulated over half of the complete damage their entire team dealt over the course of this battle. Pretty much a 3-man platoon acting out like there are 7.5 players occupying their team. But watching the replay back, it definitely felt like they were pretty much half of their team. And with that, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something from it, and I will see you next time. Laters.